Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, big changes could be coming to the University of Houston Victoria, and local A&M alumni are already seeing major potential for the area. Plus, a powerful dust storm sweeps through the Panhandle, turning the sky orange and leaving residents bracing for the impact of fierce winds. Plus, a driver faces multiple charges after a deadly pileup on I-35 in Austin that killed 5 people.
We've got some hot, dry winds headed toward the crossroads as well. We're going to have dust, we're going to have wind, and we're going to have very dry weather over the weekend. We'll be talking about that coming up in a moment.
An emergency landing turns chaotic after a plane burst into flames. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon and thanks for being with us. I'm Shawna Currie. Well, it's an alert day with strong winds and fire danger in the forecast. So we're going to go straight to Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez for the latest. And Mac, hopefully this is not going to be as bad as what they're seeing out in the Lubbock, Amarillo area, things like that.
Well, not quite as bad, but it's going to be quite steep in our area as well. What we have is just to the west of us, before you get to San Antonio, there's a dry line. That dry line is going to bring the hot, dusty air into our region. But this is what we're talking about. That's just what happened on Highway 27 between Amarillo and Lubbock. That was today. You can imagine how much dust got kicked up in the atmosphere and moving in our direction. Now, it is somewhat drier air, but it is a little bit less hot. That's all I can say. It was in the 90s today. It'll be in the 80s tomorrow, and we continue with no rain in sight and a high fire danger right on through the weekend. So we've got to be very cautious. So can you imagine a wildfire taking off right now? This is the map I wanted to show you. The green is where all the humidity is, and the brown to the west is where all the arid, dry weather is. So that is going to shift into the crossroads overnight, and we'll be talking more about your forecast and what the 7-day looks like coming up a little bit later on. Stay tuned. Shawna, back to you.
The winds are howling across Texas with gusts hitting up to 80 miles per hour in places like Amarillo. The strong winds have flipped tractor trailers on the roads, damaged structures like billboards, and kicked up a thick cloud of orange dust over Lubbock. Now the big concern is wildfires. Any spark could turn into a fast-moving blaze with these powerful gusts. With the University of Houston Victoria possibly joining the Texas A&M University system, local A&M alumni are buzzing with excitement. Victoria County A&M alumni president Thomas Kyle, a 2015 Texas A&M graduate, believes the move could be a game changer. He says A&M could introduce degree programs like agricultural science that would directly boost the local economy. Plus, just the switch itself could draw more people to the area.
I know there's a lot of Victoria County Aggies, and with Victoria being an important economic center outside of your major metropolitan places, I think it would attract people to Victoria County.
Other majors that Texas A&M could bring to Victoria include business and animal science. A similar bill was filed in 2011 by then State Representative Jeannie Morrison. She joins us live in the studio with Don Brubaker to talk more about it. Don?
Shawna, thank you and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Don.
You bet. Well, University of Houston Victoria has been part of the University of Houston system for over 50 years. So the question is, how do lawmakers and supporters of this bill address the emotional and historical connection that Victoria has with the University of Houston system for all these years?
It's just really University of Houston's been a great asset to our community, and they are on a journey of their Tier 1 university. And so it's a smaller system. And I think with all that's going on in Victoria, going to A&M would be just a wonderful thing, because there's so many different things that we have in this community that would really help us. But University of Houston has been a great partner with us.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the University of Houston system journey. Is that what is taking the University of Houston system, maybe in your opinion, away from Victoria and the needs of this community?
Well, it's a small system. I mean, there's only so much money to go around. But I think for what's going on in Victoria right now, there are some other economic development things that we need to be ready for. And also we've got agriculture, and we've got a lot of new things coming, and A&M has more of what we need as far as other institutions as getting together and making sure that we have all of the economic development and everyone is trained in other things that University of Houston does not offer. And so I think A&M would be a great partner for us. There's a lot of A&M alumni here, and it's time for us to move on. And the University of Houston Victoria has just been a wonderful, wonderful product for our community, but there's some other things that we need now, and University of Houston is doing a great thing with all that they're doing with their research and everything too.
Mm-hmm. This almost happened 14 years ago, and you were heavily involved in that situation. Why did it not pan out 14 years ago, 2011?
I think it just wasn't the right time, really. The University of Houston system was growing themselves and working on their Tier 1. But basically at that time, I mean, we had a lot of great different types of things that this area needed. And so there were some things that we felt like that we needed to expand on, but it just wasn't the right time. I think now is the right time, and I think the system agrees too that they're going one way, and we're more of a rural area, and we've got some things that we need for basically jobs. We've got great jobs coming, and we need that training that they don't offer.
All right. Thanks for your tips as always, and thanks for coming in. We appreciate seeing you.
Thanks, Don. Thank you.
All right. Shawna, back to you.
All right, thank you, Don. One big question lawmakers are still working through at the state capitol is who would actually qualify for a potential school voucher program. 25 News Now Sunrise anchor Carolina Estrain catches up with Texas Tribune education reporter Jaden Edison to break it down.
I'm joined by Jaden Edison. He is a Texas Tribune education reporter, and he's here to talk to me about an article he wrote questioning whether the wealthiest of Texans should be able to take advantage of the potential new voucher program. Jaden, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, so a lot of that was subject to public hearing this week, a really long public hearing. We're talking about, I think, what it was 22 hours, right? That lasted from the early hours of Tuesday and ended around 6:30 in the morning on Wednesday. And so a marathon of a public hearing, but that very question of, should the wealthiest of Texans be able to access a school voucher program, which would allow, families to use taxpayer dollars to fund their children's private education. That was a central focus especially for the Democrats, on the Public Education Committee in the Texas House that is responsible for kind of helping push this along for full consideration in the legislature. And, there are a few interesting things as it relates to this, right? Is a lot of the rhetoric that we've heard this session has been that, we're pushing this program. We want to pass this program and prioritize the neediest families, right? And that's, our lowest income students, that's students with disabilities. And obviously there's an intersection of both, for many families, right? And I think the tension here, though, is that, in trying to do that, you're also trying to establish a program that's open to every Texas student. And so those two things, when you talk to education experts who's really studied these programs across the country, run into conflict, right? And I think that the biggest part of that is there's a couple of things, right? What we've seen in other states is that the vast majority of kids who participate in these huge, expansive programs tend to be kids who had already been attending private school before the program was created, right? So therefore, families who had already committed to, in some cases, paying, thousands of dollars to already send their kids to private school. And at the same time, when you look at the Texas bill and other bills across the country, when you don't impose any particular enrollment requirements on private schools, you don't, give them any particular requirements to say, hey, you have to admit, these particular students. Ultimately, the private schools can still operate as they had before. And so that raises concerns about, when you have the lowest, low income families, when you have students with, disabilities that may need more hands-on assistance, say a child who's in a wheelchair per se, right, which we saw testimony from, this past weekend and last month during the Senate hearing. People are concerned that ultimately what's going to end up happening is that the most neediest families won't actually be able to access the program. And so it's a conversation between eligibility and access, right? And those two things aren't the same. And I think that was a lot of the focus and concern kind of as we move here forward over the course of the next several weeks and potentially months to kind of iron out the details of what this program could look like.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jaden. We're going to send it back to y'all at the desk.
This brings us to our viewer poll today. Should Texas's school vouchers be limited to low-income families and students with disabilities? Either available to all families, or you can choose limited to lower income families and students with disabilities, or you oppose the vouchers altogether. We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. And just over half of voters right now oppose the voucher system altogether. And then a third believe that all families should be able to utilize those vouchers if that becomes an option in the future. Continue voting. We'll have the latest on 25 News now at 6. A man is facing multiple charges after a multi-vehicle crash on Interstate 35 in North Austin killed 5 people and hurt 11 others. Police say 37-year-old Solomon Weldakil Araya was intoxicated when he caused the crash. He is now charged with 5 counts of intoxication manslaughter and 2 counts of intoxication assault. The crash involved 17 vehicles, with crews rescuing 3 people trapped inside. Among the victims, 3 adults, a child, and a baby.
Obviously realized the severity of the incident. They upgraded it to a vehicle rescue alarm. Subsequently after that, it was upgraded to a second alarm vehicle rescue, which is very rare in the city due to the severity of this incident. Crews worked to extricate 3 patients that were pinned in their vehicles and then assisted Austin EMS.
Investigators shut down I-35 for hours but have since reopened all lanes. The NTSB is now looking into the crash. Texas lawmakers are pushing harsher criminal penalties while prison and jail populations soar. To read the full Texas Tribune article, visit crossroadstoday.com. A terrifying scene in Denver after a plane caught fire. Passengers rushing to get out, scared for their lives. The NTSB now investigating. ABC's Jacqueline Lee has more.
Drama unfolding at yet another U.S. airport. An emergency landing after an American Airlines plane burst into flames. Passengers rushing to get out as the smoke billowed out.
But this was a very thick, black smoke. All the times that I've been flying, I've never seen anything like that.
Alexandra Cullen says her mom was one of the survivors, sharing this video and describing it as chaos.
We saw probably a couple dozen people coming down the slide and running away. We didn't know what we were seeing or what was going to happen to people, so it was pretty scary.
The Boeing 737 was en route to Dallas from Colorado Springs, but the plane was diverted to Denver after the crew reported engine vibrations about 30 minutes into the flight.
We just have a high engine vibration, so we are cruising slower than normal for American 10,006.
But as the plane touched down, the engine caught fire at the gate.
Engine fire.
Emergency vehicles rushing to the scene with passengers waiting on the wing and even using the emergency slide to get down. 12 passengers were sent to the hospital with minor injuries, with all 172 passengers and 6 crew members evacuated.
This was a situation involving a mechanical malfunction of the engine in flight that did not really erupt into flames until it got on the ground. Fortunately, the crew did exactly the right thing and got the airplane on the ground as rapidly as possible.
The NTSB is investigating and all patients have been released from the hospital. In a statement, American Airlines thanked crew members and first responders for their quick and decisive action. Jacqueline Lee, ABC News, Los Angeles.
And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us straight ahead on 25 News now at 5. Your favorite acne treatment might be on the recall list. Find out which products are being pulled due to a dangerous chemical link. Plus, a new survey reveals what's really on teens' minds. Hint, it's more than just school and friendships. Your go-to acne treatment might be off the shelves. Several products are being recalled due to heavy levels of benzene, a chemical linked to cancer. 6 products are affected, including ones from Proactive, La Roche-Posay, and Walgreens. While the FDA says the risk of cancer from using them is low, they're being pulled as a precaution. This recall is at the retail level, so if you have one at home, there is no need to take action. A new Pew Research survey gives us a glimpse into what's on teens' minds today. Girls report more pressure to fit in and look good, while boys feel pushed to be strong and athletic. Both say getting good grades and finding a fulfilling career matter most. When it comes to friendships, 95% of girls say they have a close friend for support, compared to 85% of boys. The survey included nearly 1,400 teens ages 13 to 17. Some troubling new numbers about the measles outbreak. Only 3 months into 2025, the United States has surpassed the total number of measles cases in the country for all of last year. That's according to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So far in 2025, there have been 308 measles cases. In 2024, the agency reported 285 cases. Most of this year's measles cases are linked to a multi-state outbreak in Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. The FDA has released its flu vaccine recommendations for 2025-26, calling for a trivalent shot to protect against 2 influenza A strains and 1 influenza B strain. Instead of consulting its usual independent advisors, the FDA gathered experts from its own team, the CDC, and the Department of Defense to review global flu data before making the call.
Well, good evening, everyone. We are looking at some hot, windy weather. Look at that. 88 is our high today, 95 in San Antonio, 104 down in Laredo. And that is just the beginning of it, because behind this front, we've had some westerly winds in the panhandle at hurricane force. Yeah, I'm talking 75 miles an hour. It's a windy day. It's dusty. A lot of that's headed in our direction. We'll be talking about us coming up in just a moment. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We've got a lot of unusual weather across the state. I think, it's going to be an okay weekend, but it's just hot and dusty all over the place. 85 is our current temperature. Our winds have settled down. We did peak out at about 28 miles an hour, so it was a little blustery. Our high today got up to 88, not a record. I just need to correct that, not a record. The old record was 93. I have to fix that. And 64 was our morning low. But as I mentioned to you, while we're getting a southeast wind, which keeps us on the mild side of things and getting a little bit of humidity, just past I-35, right about here, is the dry line and the westerly winds that are rolling around this monstrous area of low pressure. You can see how the winds are rolling kind of in this fashion. Well, anywhere from about Midland, I-20 at least, all the way north into the Panhandle looked like this. This was along I-27, howling windstorm, 72 mile an hour wind gusts, sustained winds at 60 miles an hour, and that's just driving along the freeway. You can imagine there was a huge car pileup in that area as the winds rolled through. And of course, right now we're looking at a little bit cooler weather on the other side of the front, but the dry line is right about here, and that's the dusty air that's going to be rolling into our area. Now tomorrow you're going to see haze, dust, and all kinds of stuff falling on your car. It's okay to wash it, but I don't know how long it'll last because it's dry, but it's dusty. 84 the forecast high on Saturday, 80 on Sunday, so it does knock the temperature down just a bit, but not much at all because we stay well above our average normals for this time of year. Well, in addition to all that, we've got the high fire danger in our area, and red flag warnings are pretty much up for everybody in Texas. If you are going to the ranch over the weekend, just consider dry grasses, fallen leaves, things that have not greened up for the springtime just yet. It's going to be a problem. And can you imagine fighting a fire with that kind of wind? I've done that, okay? I've done that. We've had ranch fires that we had to go get out to, and it's no fun. It's scary because you can't stop it. The wind just keeps blowing and blowing and blowing. So let's just all be very cautious. Now, right now, at this very moment, you can see how we've got 60, 70% humidity on our side. Here's Victoria. But on the other side, just beyond Cuero and into Nixon and what city is that? Oh, Karnes City, of course. I just blanked out. Look at that. This is what's blowing my mind. 9% humidity in San Antonio right now. So that's arid, dry, dusty air that's blowing in. I'm sure the dust is going to be a huge problem. So again, the dry line and the front are coming through by tomorrow morning. Then the dusty winds will be settling over our area. There's the dry line, there's the front. It's not a huge cold front. We're going to wait and to see what this one does, but I can tell you right now, probably not much in terms of rain. Over the weekend, a huge problem. There's New Orleans, here's Panama City. Right there, they're likely to have big tornadoes in that part of the world. For us, no problems with that. We can't buy rain. We can't find a raindrop that I can buy at all. We're looking for a low of 59 tonight, getting up into the 80s tomorrow. Your forecast looks like sunshine, but it looks breezy in Port Lavaca with a high of 88. It's sunny but breezy in Cuero with a high of 83. And through the next 7 days, it's just going to be windy and hot. That is your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads Today on your phone. Here's Shawna.
Still to come, the Postmaster General pushes a USPS overhaul to cut costs and streamline services. The U.S. stock market rebounded today with news that lawmakers would likely pass a funding plan to avoid a government shutdown. And while all three major indices closed up, they still closed the week in the red. Here's a closer look at those numbers. The Dow gained 675 points today. The S&P 500 gained 117 points. The Nasdaq gained 451 points. And oil is up 59 cents to $67.16 per barrel. Gold prices hit a record high as concerns about the Trump administration's tariffs increase. The cost of the yellow metal hit $3,005 per ounce this morning. One wealth management company calls gold the panic asset of choice. Earlier this week, President Donald Trump placed 25% tariffs on all aluminum and steel imports. The European Union and Canada responded with countermeasures, and analysts say the extreme uncertainty from the Trump tariffs is causing many businesses to be unsure about overall hiring and investing. One analyst also says gold prices are on the rise because the U.S. dollar is weakening. The U.S. Postmaster General has signed an agreement with DOJ and the General Services Administration to help streamline the Postal Service. In a letter to Congress, Louis DeJoy said teams will tackle regulatory mandates, retirement assets, and workers' comp programs. He called for major changes to keep the USPS financially stable. Since 2021, the agency has cut 30,000 jobs, with another 10,000 set to go through early retirement. The USPS currently employs about 635,000 people nationwide. Still to come on 25 News Now at 5, a viral dancing grandma hits a major birthday milestone, and her secret to staying young might just surprise you.
Tonight, the global trade war escalates as more federal families face layoffs and a government shutdown looms. Plus, the dangerous winter storm impacting millions. World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Social media centenarian sensation has reached a birthday milestone, and it appears her secret to longevity involves kicking up her heels. Here's ABC's Danny New with more.
It's been almost 6 years since Shirley Goodman, aka the Dancing Nana, became an international sensation when she led the Tush Push at her great-nephew's wedding. A few weeks later, you may remember Shirley and her whole family taking the party to Good Morning America with Robin and Lara. And backstage, she even got to tell George something very important.
You're much more handsome in person. I guess that's a good thing. I don't know.
Well, we have an update for you. Today, Shirley is turning 102 years old. And she still loves to dance.
That's what I owe my longevity to, is moving all the time.
I spoke with Shirley this week and learned that she has been moving all the time for almost a century. The upstate New York native first started dancing when she was 8 years old, and out of high school opened her own dance school. You can see here a posting for her class in June of 1943. But the following year is when dance took on a new meaning for Shirley. Her husband, Lieutenant Alfred Grossman, was taken as a prisoner of war by the Germans in World War II. And while he did eventually come home safely,
was dance something you turned to find joy in those dark times?
Yes, of course. It saved my life.
And decades later, dance has also helped Shirley touch lives around the world. This video you saw earlier of a little pre-birthday performance this month picked up millions of views on Instagram. One commenter writing, "Absolutely fabulous," and another saying, "You are my goals, happy 102.
I'm doing what I love and inspiring people. It's a good feeling.
And this all runs in Shirley's family, by the way. Her father actually performed in vaudeville, so growing up, while Shirley would tap dance with her shoes, her father could tap with spoons. Like that. In New York, for ABC News, I'm Danny New.
Like that.
Even at my age, I might be able to do the spoons, but I'm not sure I could do the tap dancing.
The tap dancing, that's a skill that we don't learn nowadays.
Yeah,
So congratulations to her.
That is amazing.
Happy birthday. Well, folks, we've got an okay weekend, and I say that cautiously because it's going to be sunny. It's just going to be windy, and we are in the high fire danger. So we still have the alerts through Saturday, Sunday. May not be as hot well into the 90s, but we will be in the 80s and it'll be quite dry. In fact, we might have a lot of dust in the air tomorrow as all that West Texas Lubbock dust got kicked up in the atmosphere with 70-mile-an-hour winds. Probably will be descending over our area over the next couple of days. So on the hot and dry side right on through, and really no rain in sight through 7 days.
Okay, so allergies may be acting up a little bit.
Oh yeah, and there's been a lot of dust. You may feel like I'm getting the hoarseness out of the arid atmosphere that's coming in. So that if anything's affecting your throat, that might be it.
Okay, all right. And then make sure that there's no burning. We're not under a burn ban, but officials are asking people not to burn
really
this weekend.
Really be very cautious with that over the weekend.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here in 30 minutes for 25 News Now at 6.